Hello, Gohors and fellow Deadites. I'm Brennan.
I'm Sam.
And welcome to our Life in Horror.
And we are doing a movie review.
Yeah, we are.
A movie that we have never seen.
Yeah, it's nice.
Yeah, but a friend recommended it to us, so let's bring on Coy. Why is my mouse never working? One sec. Hey!
Hello.
How's it going?
Oh, there you go. How's it going?
Good, how are you?
Good. Can't complain. I learned if I complain, it gets worse. So I just go with it.
Thanks for coming on for this and for suggesting it.
Me. Yep.
Of course.
I love when people recommend first-time watches.
Yeah, me too.
So did you guys have any concept at all of what it was about, or what was when you went in? I always ask, because this movie, it's important for me to know. Did you have any idea at all what it was about? Sometimes people can infer from the name. What was your knowledge when you hit play? What did you know?
So I had seen this it was in the 90s, Search of Darkness, right? There's a clip of it, I think, in there.
In the documentary.
But I've seen it in other documentaries as well, or just people talking about it on YouTube as a reference or something like that. I knew basically the Vietnam stuff, but I didn't know much else other than that.
Yeah.
I went into it. Whoa, are you okay? I went into it. Sorry, my dog just sketched me out. I knew that it had to do with war and PTSD, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
And that it was bleak, and that's it. Everyone always said it was a depressing watch, so I guess
has a beautiful ending. I actually think the ending is one of the most positive endings you can get in a movie. I actually love the ending a lot. Yeah.
I'm excited to talk about that. Yeah.
I think the ending, and we were talking before this about fun little facts about the movie. He fought tooth and nail to get that ending to be the way it was. So that ending, they were wanting to change the ending. They were like, this is not a good ending. And he was like, no, you don't understand. It's the whole concept of the story. It has to end this way. And they're like, no, it's because they wanted it to end with something scary. And it's just, yeah. So it was actually a really bitter kind of drug, because they also fought over the Vietnam part. They didn't want to give him the Vietnam beginning. And he was like, no, it's very important that it's, so.
Okay.
It's an expensive thing to shoot.
Yeah. I don't know if the compromise, because it opens with the helicopters. I don't know if that might be just B footage. I don't want to say definitively because I don't remember, but I think that might just be B-roll. But the whole thing with them out in the jungle, it's still expensive. Yeah. Especially to get 20, 30 people all dressed up and
the explosions.
Yeah. So what did you guys think when you were watching? So what kind of walk me through, because it's first time watch for you guys. So what was your experience kind of processing what was happening in the film?
You go for it.
Well, I was,
because I'm just interested in that. Because when I saw the film, I had no real I didn't know what it was about. And it was the spoilers, right? We can say spoiler things right now. Okay.
Not yet.
Oh, not yet.
We're not in spoilers yet.
So be careful then. So I'll be careful. Well, I didn't know what the film was about. Right. Mm-hmm. So when I went in, it was I knew a spoiler that I can't say. But I knew what I had no the middle and all the meat was. So I'm just interested for you guys, as you were going along, was it because there's a conversation I had with my brother about this movie, that there's a lot of films, even if you haven't seen this, that are like this now, but weren't like that at the time. And they might, if you've seen films that have similar plot beats, it can make this film not lesser, but it can come off kind of oh, I've seen this before. Did you guys feel that way at all, or?
I never got that feeling.
No, I didn't either. There's certain scenes that reminded me of other things, which I'll get into when we get into spoilers, but not this was a totally fresh movie for me.
Mm-hmm.
Personally. Yeah.
Yeah, this movie is a literal nightmare you're watching for a good portion of the runtime.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's fun. I like it a lot.
Ryan has your link in the chat. Thank you, Ryan.
Thank you, Ryan.
Do you want to tell everyone what you're doing on your channel before we start?
Honestly, right now, I'm gonna be really real. Since I have everything set up, I might, like, this is gonna sound kind of crazy, but I might just like private all the videos, and I'm
Okay.
gonna create a logo and just kind of like every video from the video is gonna have like an intro and a logo, and I just kind of like, not that the stuff before didn't matter, but I'm just kind of like, I need a definitive starting point, and I don't want to just like leave stuff on that's because I have like Counter-Strike stuff and Resident Evil stuff and all this other things on there. So I think in a week or two, hopefully, if someone checks my channel, I'm wanting to get. I've seen a lot of movies recently, so I'm wanting to do like a roundup video. So hopefully there'll be a little like roundup discussion podcast where I talk about like 4 or 5 films all together, and that'll have like a logo and an intro. So that should be what people should expect the next like 4 or 5 days. That's what I'm hoping for, at least. Yeah.
Awesome.
It's hard with YouTube. I feel like I like wake up very motivated, and the things that are slowing me down are like not editing, but it's all the logistic, like I said, design of a logo and intros and all, and not only that, but like layouts and stuff. You know what I mean? There's people who find it pretty quickly, and then there's people who are like, they rebrand a couple of times, and I'm just like, I don't want to like make a bunch of stuff, have an identity later, and then want to get rid of all of it at some point, which I feel like some channels do. I feel like some channels, they make a lot of content, and then all of a sudden they're like, it's got to go. I just want to do that earlier than later, So.
Yeah, definitely. It's hard to find your flow and your groove, and like you said, your look of your channel, like you want to nail it right away, but it does take some time.
It's like I think of it like a bedroom. Like when you first move into your bedroom, it's like you have your little space and you might put some stuff on the wall, but eventually you're gonna like be like, all right, I'm rearranging this now that I've been in here 6 months. This is gonna go here, this is gonna go here, and it's usually completely different than when you first moved in. So that's kind of how I feel about it.
Yeah,
I'm finding my space on the YouTube kind of algorithm. So
that's totally fine. Everyone go subscribe, and he will be up and posting soon.
Yep. Yeah.
Love it. I'm just gonna say what's up to a few people in the chat here, and then we'll get into this. Thank you, Ryan. Yes, don't forget to like and subscribe to Koi as well. Big Rod's here. I'll be driving and listening.
Drive safe.
Yeah, drive safe. Jean's here. Hey, Jean.
Hey, Jean. You got Hall & Oates.
Did I skip someone? Yes, thank you. Hey, Holland.
Hey,
sorry,
Hall &
buddy.
Oates.
My bad. Corey, I was told that I'm supposed to take my wife out to eat, so I will not be able to stay for the live stream, but wanted to say hi. I hope you have a great one.
Hey.
Happy wife, happy life.
Absolutely.
Enjoy your dinner. And we got Noel here. Hey, Noel.
Hey, Noel.
And Tiana. Hey, Tiana. And Jamie. Hey, Jamie.
Hey. Did you see this in theaters, Jamie?
Yeah.
I think she said she did.
Yeah. Okay.
I think she told me she did. Yeah. Hi, Jamie.
Probably.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm gonna get into the cast and stuff. Then we'll say our spoiler-free thoughts, and then we'll get into this because I'm very curious to hear everyone's discussion on it. Jacob's Ladder, 7.4 on IMDb, 72% on Rotten Tomatoes. This release date was November 2nd, 1990. Director is Adrian Lyne. Budget $25 million. Starring Tim Robbins, Elizabeth Pena. After returning home from the Vietnam War, veteran Jacob Singer struggles to maintain his sanity, plagued by hallucinations and flashbacks. Singer rapidly falls apart as the world and people around him morph and twist into disturbing images. So, spoiler-free thoughts.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny. It's a movie that, not that you can't say anything about it, but you'd have to talk more about like performances and things like that. I feel like as far as a movie itself, it's like, I would recommend most people to see it. I would just say temper expectations. It has scary things in it, but it's not would you guys call it like a full-on horror movie? I don't know what your guys' interpretation of what that means is.
I personally would.
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, like you said, horror is subjective, so everyone thinks different stuff is scary. But I would still, there was definitely scenes in this where I was like, oh,
My my rule for that is always, I tell people, a movie doesn't have to scare me to be a horror movie, but it has to have what can be visible to most people as attempts to scare you. And I think there's attempts in this movie. Like, I think there's actual attempts to be scary. So I'd call it a horror movie, but I would say it's like, this is going to sound pretentious, but it's kind of like, I don't want to see deeper than most horror movies, but I feel like there's a message more than just jump scares and things that they were, you know what I mean? They're not just trying to freak you out. So
are you trying to say it's elevated horror?
no, I was trying to avoid, I was literally, my brain was doing
avoiding that word.
I was trying I was like using every IQ point to not say the word elevated.
That's hilarious. Yeah, if a movie had to be scary to be horror, then they're like, if it had to scare you to be considered horror, there wouldn't be very many horror movies in my life. Because we're also desensitized, right? So yeah.
And what's funny is with modern horror, like, I know this is not the discussion, but with like modern horror,
okay.
I walk out of movies a lot where I'm like, did they even try? Like, there's a lot of horror movies recently where they're more interested in being funny and just showing you some like kills, you know what I mean? It's not really, they're not actually attempting to frighten you at all really during the film, you know. They might get an accidental scare, you know what I mean? But it's not like a lot of films like Resident Evil, you guys, I think it was Sam was watching me play it, like that game, they literally made it less scary because they said that 7, the one before it, they were like, they got letters saying people stopped playing because it was too scary. So they made the next one less scary and people complained that it wasn't scary enough. So it's like, I feel like if I ever made a horror movie, it's just like, just throw it all at the wall and see what sticks. But this movie doesn't really, like I said, it feels like it's trying to scare you, but it's not a movie that I would, you know, there's a lot of people who have hangups about films where it's like, it can't be too gory or it can't be too, I feel like it falls in a real sweet spot where it's kind of like, there's very few people I wouldn't recommend it to, but if you want like, you know, if someone only goes sees like popcorn horror, like Conjuring movies and stuff, they may not like it. But I would overall recommend it. You can't really say what the movie's about though without spoiling it, which is unfortunate.
Yeah.
You know, I want to talk right now on the non-spoilers, but I'm just like, it's a movie that really the only thing you can say is if you're talking about the meat of it. So
we're getting there.
Yeah, this movie feels like an early like A24 movie. Like really.
Yeah.
It's a movie they would have picked up, I think. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, definitely. I was unnerved throughout a lot of the runtime. I think it's quite frightening, everything involved. And which I'm sorry, on a tangent, you brought up Resident Evil. Which Resident Evil? So 7 is that the
That's
the house one?
The Chainsaw Family. Like where it's like where they're trying to copy the Texas Chainsaw movies where they're out in the swamp and they have the fungus and all that.
Funny story. So the last time I played a Resident Evil game, it was that one.
Oh yeah.
And I was high as shit.
That's like me.
High as shit playing the first level, and I couldn't do it. I had these big like headphones in, they were full blasted. I had the lights out, and I didn't make it probably more than 20 minutes into that game before I said I'm too freaked out and shut it off.
That's what the Japanese studio said. They said that they were getting numerous letters of people saying like, I can't play your game. Like, I love your game and I just can't play it. It's too scary. And then they made the next one less scary and people got mad at them and they got like worse reviews. And I'm just like, I don't know. Like it's like the roller coaster thing. Like, do you want people to get off and go, I almost died? Or do you want them to be like, I had a great time? You know, like at what point do those two meet each other? You know what I mean? So
yeah.
Jamie says it here. This movie is definitely horror. It's disturbing and unsettling on a psychological level. That's exactly what I was going to say for my spoiler-free thoughts. Like, it's super psychological, and sometimes that's scarier than watching, well, a slasher or something, right?
Hard Eyes.
Hard Eyes, yeah. Our little rom-com slasher we just got, which I adored, but but yeah, psychological gets to me sometimes. So that's all I'll say spoiler-free. I was super invested in this movie for the first half, and then it lost my attention a little, but I hopped back in, so that's good.
Okay.
I'll get into more in the spoiler section, but we'll get into it.
I can say that before we go into the spoilers, for
Yeah.
the non-spoiler people, is it, and I think I can kind of guess, was it when it got back into the military aspect is where you started to like lose attention a little bit? Is that the point? Like, I want to say like not before the last third act, but like that little end of the middle chunk. Is that what kind of slowed you down, or?
When he was getting together with his buddies and stuff.
Well, yeah, okay.
I think a little bit there,
It
maybe.
slowed down a little bit. I could
Yeah.
see that. I could see that. I feel like the movie, if I could, without saying any spoilers, I feel like there's only one flaw of this film, and like I feel like the middle, in two different ways, kind of repeats itself a little bit. Like it kind of goes over the same thing twice, but there's a reason for that. You know, I think it's to show a juxtaposition, but it does kind of do one plot development two times, and I do think that's kind of odd. We could talk about that later, but
Okay.
yeah.
All right, everyone, we're getting into spoilers, so you've been warned.
Yeah.
Hey, Primetime Mitch.
Hey,
Mitch, how are
Mitch.
ya? Okay, so describe this movie in 3 words.
Oh man. Emotionally gut-wrenching. There you go.
Yeah,
Nice.
well, that's good.
Yeah.
I got bleak, emotional. Yeah, I feel like there's gonna be a trend. I'll say psychological.
Yeah, okay. I said trippy, sad, and war. But I kind of want to take war out and say psychological too. I'm stealing it. Who's your favorite character?
Oh man. I want to say Lou. I want to say Lou is chiropractor.
Oh, okay.
He's my absolute favorite character in the movie, and he not only are we in spoilers now?
Yes, yeah. Spoilers for the
Okay.
rest of the episode.
He not only I think is my favorite, but he's the one that tells you in one of his final scenes the whole point of the movie. Like there's a scene near the end that we can get to when we start talking about that, but like at the end of the movie, he basically lays it out for you. And also in the juxtaposition of the analogy that the movie does of like angels and demons and like your viewpoint kind of deciding what they are to you. He's the only one that manifests as an angel the entire movie, which I find interesting because I interpret that as Lou is the guardian angel out of the people that are looking after him. Because essentially they're all in some way trying to help him. That's the whole concept of the movie, is that you think that there's, as you're watching the film, you think it's like a good side and a bad side. But essentially they're all have the same goal, which is to help him to the other side. And it's him resisting it. That's the problem. You know what I mean? So that's why I feel like with Lou's character, he, you know, when he saves him from the, I don't even want to call it a mental hospital, but it's essentially hell. When he saves him from hell, he actually pulls him up out of hell. He gives him the ability to walk out of the purgatory he's in. That's why when he cracks his back at the end and he says, I want you to walk on your own 2 feet. And he kind of gives him that look. It's because he knows he set him up for the ability to save himself. If he couldn't walk again and get him to the point where he was able to walk, he wouldn't have been able to go up out of purgatory with his son at the end of the film. So for me, Lou is like, he's the real hero of the film, you know. he's actually like the one that, I hate to say, I don't want to say he saves Jacob, but he's like one of the only people that kind of like, because on the other side of it, the people he sees as demons, you know, when he's in hell, which I represent, I think it's, you know, basically from what the movie's telling you, it tells you it's hell too. But when he's in the dark hospital and they're doing the work on him, the guy tells him essentially, he's like, why am I here? And he's like, you're dead. You know what I mean? He's like, you're dead. Like, you're here because, and he goes, no, I'm not dead. I'm alive. And he goes, no, then why are you here? You know what I mean? He's like, why are you here? They shine the light in his face when the hospital's nice in the middle of the movie. They shine the light in his face, and then he pushes it away multiple times in this movie. He is like adverse to light. There's a light usually, and it'll bother him. He'll push it away. And when he pushes the light away, he says, "No, no, get the light away from me." Immediately, they start wheeling him down into hell, and then Lou has to come save him, which I appreciate later in the movie when he comes and gets him from the hospital. And the lady, to even push even further that he was in hell, when after Lou saves him, he goes home, and Jezebel comes in, and she goes, "I've called every hospital in town. Where were you?" And he goes, "I was in the hospital." And she goes, "No, you weren't. I called every hospital and they have no record of you." So he wasn't in any actual location that she can call and manifest because he was in hell. He'd saved by Lou.
These are things I did not even think of. I'm so happy you're here.
Yeah, he was in hell being saved by Lou.
Wow. Okay.
Oh, I love it.
All right, we're just getting
Yeah.
started.
Yeah.
Who's your favorite character? A couple people in the chat here have 3 words. I'm going to throw these out: detached, trippy, and despairing.
Those
Those
are
are
Nice,
good.
that's good. Yeah.
Unsettling, mind-bending, and dark. Mind-bending.
nice.
Can I add a little bit too about Lou?
Yeah.
Can I add just a little bit? The the movie, I don't at what point did you guys realize that he was either dead or dying? Did it take a while? When you guys
I think for me it was Lou's conversation at the end. I didn't really pick up.
Wow, it
until
took
then.
you that.
Mine
So what
was the
about
palm reading where she
okay?
said it says you already died or whatever. I have the quote. I wrote it
I
down.
love
And
it.
I was
That's
like,
one of my
oh
favorite
shit, is he
scenes.
dead? Like the whole time.
Well, so when he looks at Lou, what gave it away for me the first time is Lou's talking to him, and he goes, he's talking, everything Lou says is a metaphor. So Lou goes, "I need to make a deep adjustment," in one of the early scenes. And one of the things with the Tibetan Book of the Dead that this is based off of is they believe in like chakras in your spine and like kind of like spiritual energy. So when he breaks the spiritual energy and he gets flashbacks, he's actually becoming conscious for brief moments of time to accept what's happening to him, right? He has a flash of Nam, and then Lou says to him, he goes, "Now let that settle. It was a deep adjustment." Right? So he's trying to get him to understand of what's happening to him. And then he tells Lou, he goes, this is what gave it away for me. He goes, "Lou, did I ever tell you look like a giant angel, like an overgrown cherub?" And he's like, "Every time you come and see me." And I was like, oh my God, like he's actually helping him like he's trying to get him through the process, because the reason his character has back pain is the weight and the burden of the life that he's been carrying. So it's all the stuff that he has on his back and all the guilt from Nam and all the guilt of his son and everything else. It's manifesting in him not being able to walk, right? It's manifesting and crippling his soul. So he physically can't move or get around. And I like it later in the movie because Lou keeps telling him, like, Lou's like, you have to let go. Essentially later in the movie, he tells him like, they're ripping your life away, but it's how you interpret what's happening that decides it. And back to the hell scene before he goes to hell, Santa Claus, which is normally a good figure and something positive, steals his wallet, right? Which is a funny scene because they're like, where's your wallet? And he's like, "Santa Claus stole my wallet," which is a great scene. But the idea is he didn't steal the wallet for the money. He took the picture away because he goes, "That was my only picture of Gabe." So he's holding on to this material possession that's reminding him of his life. And one of the angels and demons stole that thing from him. And he's in hell getting worked on, seeing all this horrific stuff. And he's like, "But my wallet." Like that guy. And he says something like, "I'm going to find him and kick his ass," or something like that. I forget what it is exactly, but he's like, "Santa took my wallet." And I love how the doctor just kind of looks at him like, "Santa, like, what are you talking about?"
Awesome.
Sorry.
No,
it's
this is
all
good.
Yeah.
These are things I never even thought of.
Yeah, these are deep dives that I wouldn't get on my first viewing at all.
I'm like 2, 3, 4 viewings in, so
Yeah.
My favorite character is Jacob. I think Jacob's an awesome character to follow and think he's very likable. For some reason, to just attracts women like no tomorrow, which I thought was funny. Like every woman seems to be throwing herself at him.
He's like 6'5", it looks like. He's got nice long hair.
Yeah, he's adorable too.
He's adorable.
Yeah.
I've
He's
always
very
interpreted that as it kind of lending itself to the dream. Is that, you know what I mean? Like that's part of like, because he's the main character of what's happening to him. So everything's focused on him. That's why I think you get the girls going, wait a minute, Mr. Postman, like just some random, and they're just singing to the post guy. Like it can be seen as a cute scene, but the way he's like, he even kind of, he smiles and thinks it's cute, but the way he kind of acknowledges it as like, oh, like, you know, like, why are you guys singing to me sort of thing. And I think it's the idea that every single thing that happens to him is all based off the reality that he's in at that moment. You know, essentially you're the main character of your own dream. So that's kind of how I viewed that. Because I noticed that too, the whole like women are after. I'm like, this is the most average looking guy. You know what I mean? This is the most like normal. He's very timid the whole movie.
Yeah,
Which,
he
like,
is.
yeah, he's very unassuming and very timid. So
yeah. Jamie says Coy is definitely doing the multi-watch deep dive.
I'm sorry.
Like
I'm trying
too.
not to.
No, it's good.
No, it's okay.
we wouldn't be able to pull this shit.
Yeah.
So
yeah, I think Jacob goes through literal hell in this movie, and I think it's sad. And I became heavily invested in him right away. I don't think his introduction is very great, but that's fine. I was very invested after the first Nom sequence. Like I thought the Nom sequence at the beginning was okay, but I wasn't invested in him until probably after. I just feel like at the beginning when you see him and he's walking out from taking a shit or whatever, and he literally just laughs a couple times, and it's
the funny. Sorry, I'm so sorry. I don't mean to cut you off. I'm new to all this, so if I cut you off, please don't be mad.
It's okay.
It's okay.
Don't worry.
That's pretty much where I was going to leave it off. So,
I was just going to comment on what you said, like the idea that because the opening scene of the movie where because you don't really get any you get time with all these characters that you don't see till later in the movie, and they all have like Ving Rhames has a little bit of dialogue, and they all kind of have like little moments with each other. But he does, I think maybe you get a word or two from him. I don't know. I think he says something about shitting. Right before like everything. Like that's all you get at all. And I think the reason for that is to keep you really confused about the beginning. I think they don't really want to they don't want to give away his position in the army, if he was important or not, or like his relationship to his team. I remember I saw the beginning and it's cut. I want to know your guys' view of this, but when I first saw the film, it's cut like really quickly so you don't know what's happening. But to me, I could still see the little signs of like, why the fuck is that guy just like screaming? Like he's just on the ground fucking screaming. And then another guy's like, I think there's a guy like bleeding random. Like there's all these things happening where you're like, that's not some guy that just got shot from from the bushes. You know what I mean? So I had this idea from like the very beginning of the movie where I'm like, it looks like they're just hurting each other. Like it looks like they're all just losing their minds now all of a sudden. So that stuck for me. Like that first opening scene, I never was under the belief that they were attacked. Like it never sold it. Yeah, it never sold it for me when I first watched the movie. Did it sell it for you guys? Because
I thought they were attacked.
Yeah, I thought they were too. I think it's shot in a very disorienting way, but I feel like that's also what war is like. It's very disorientating, and also if they weren't just like they weren't planning to go forward and attack somebody else or whatever. They were like literally being attacked on. So of course it'd be disorientating. You'd be
overstimulated.
Yeah, you'd be getting rushed. You'd have a boost of adrenaline.
There's like a guy having a seizure. There's one guy screaming, and then there's another guy that's like, I think he's bleeding from either his ears or his eyes. Yeah. Like something horrible. And I'm like sitting there and I'm like, because you hear gunfire. I'm pretty sure you hear gunfire and you hear like an attack happening. But when I was watching the film, the times I've seen it, it's like the imagery of them having an episode, not like you're like, bullets don't cause you to have a seizure, bullets don't cause you to scream at the heavens like you're like having a conniption, you know what I mean? So for me, I was always like, what the hell just happened? And when I first saw the film, I had the idea that they put something in the weed. Like for some reason I was stuck on that the whole time I
I
was
thought
watching
something
the
was
movie.
in the air. I thought someone dropped like something in the air and it was affecting them all, like their brains. That's where my brain went.
I was,
but the weed.
I thought they put
laced
something
it.
in their weed.
Yeah, I was between drugs because the army did experiment on soldiers in Nam, and I was between that and shell shock.
Yeah,
I didn't think of
which
that.
is a very real thing too, right? So I was like, okay, these, like the one guy that's just sitting there staring, I was like, okay, he's probably just in shell shock. He's got no idea what to even do, can't move, just nothing.
Okay, Jamie thought it was chemical weapon too.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Like the end of the movie, and I. This is going to sound like a weird statement. I don't want to do the effort of finding the answer. If there is an answer, there may not be an answer to this, but I watched a podcast a couple months ago of people talking about the end of the movie, and they were all a little confused on, and I don't think in my understanding, I don't think there's a right answer to this. I think it's kind of left up to you to decide. But how deep the military plot goes, I think is all up to you as a viewer to decide. Now, there's actually three different ways you can view based off of the understanding of the end of the movie, the little tiny dialogue piece at the end, which is actually why he made that part of the script. So there was a guy in the US Army that tried that drug. I don't know if it was exactly the same code name, but it was a experimental drug that the Army tried, and he had heard about the story because the guy said that he did the drug and he was basically in a waking nightmare for 4 days. He said he had no idea between reality or a dream or any, like, it was just, he said he saw demons and monsters and like things with tentacles, and he said it was 4 days of just like mind-breakingly bad horror, just like
Sounds
the worst
horrible.
thing you could ever. Yeah, he said it was the worst thing you could ever imagine. And that kind of, along with all his spiritual journey stuff, got the guy thinking like, okay, how do I combine these two things? Where is he having the spiritual journey because he is, or is he having a drug-induced episode while he's dying? And I think that's kind of left open to you to decide, like, is this happening just because he was killed and he's going through a process and it's a spiritual process and kind of like an afterlife sort of thing, or is he going through it literally just because he was drugged in that situation? And obviously later in the movie, when he's being told in the alleyway all this information from the chemist, we know since he's dying, he could not have actually have had this conversation. This conversation could be an understanding his unconscious mind is coming to, like, we must have been drugged. Right? Like his mind's going through what happened, and it goes, we all attacked each other, so there has to have been a reason why. Like deep down, he was denying the fact that they all killed each other. And when his conscious mind inside this nightmare that he's having, he's in an alleyway talking to a man that he's not actually talking to because this isn't actually happening. And he's giving him information that's not real. And that's the kind of part of the movie that is always weird for me, because none of that's, at least to my understanding, there was no, like, he can't know that because that wasn't told to him in his lifetime. So I don't think he's getting information. I don't think any of that. That's all just him maybe thinking like, I had to have been drugged somehow. You know what I mean? Like, because I'm having this kind of existential experience, but I don't know. Like, I don't know if the movie answers it clearly enough at the end, and I don't know if it matters, but I just want to know if you guys had any thoughts on that, because that's always the interesting part of the movie to me, is like, did you guys kind of end up at the end like he was experimented on and that conversation is what's actually happening, that they all got drugged and this is the result of that, and now he's having kind of a trip while he's dying? Or did you think that that's all just made up as part of this nightmare feel that he's going through?
I was taking it as a, like, since we're talking about it in this sense, I would say I'd say it's a way for him to maybe grapple with what happened.
That's what I was thinking too.
You know, like it may not have happened, but like that's what's going to be able to make him digest.
Make sense of it.
Yeah, the easiest.
Mhm.
Yeah. Sorry for just talking, guys. I'm so sorry.
No,
I apologize.
it's okay.
The movie's interesting to me because I feel like it doesn't. It's all just. Well, what I meant, Jamie, is the dying dream horrifically vivid? Like he says, is the horror of what he's going through because he's on a substance. Like it's like dying while you're on LSD, or dying while you're on acid, or dying while you're on hallucinogenic. Like, is it? Are you having an elevated experience because of this chemical weapon that he was given, or is he just dying and this is what it's like to die? Like, I don't know what the director was exactly saying by the end of the film in that part of it. And that's always been kind of like a piece of the movie that I think it's my only real super criticism, is that that's not clear. But I don't know if it's meant to be, and that's why I said I don't really want to. I'm sure I can go to like a Reddit post about it and someone's like, no, well, actually the director said, you know, and I'm scared to get that answer, but I always like to ask people, like, is the military plot line, like, how much weight at the end of the film do you give? Because I think if I walk away from it, I think he was drugged. Like, I think they're all on drugs when they're dying. I think that was the whole concept, was that that's what the attack was, and that's why he's having the experience he's having, you know?
Okay.
Yeah. It could be. I wouldn't see like why it wouldn't be if it wasn't brought up at the end of the movie so in your face about it, right?
Yeah. The only thing is just, how would he have that information? That's what I'm saying. It's just such a weird. It's like a concept of like, how could he have that conversation with the guy? The director was on drugs. Probably, yeah. To be honest. He actually, you know, it's funny. His career never really like. He's made some okay movies, but I feel like this is his best work.
Yeah, what else has he done? I didn't look that up. Do you know off the top of your head or no?
A couple of like 80s, late 90s, like, here, let me see real quick. They're things you've heard of, but they're all pretty innocuous. Let me see here. Adrian Lynn. Yeah, so he made his most notable films are Flashdance, 9.5 Weeks, Fatal Attraction, Indecent
Fatal
Proposal.
Attraction. I read that. Yeah.
Indecent Proposal, Lolita, and Unfaithful. So he did a lot of like romance thrillers that weren't really
Holland.
like.
Made a bunch of fuck flicks.
Yeah, he made a bunch of like romance thrillers, which is a dead genre, I've noticed.
Yeah.
Almost completely dead. It's like nobody makes sexy thrillers anymore. It doesn't happen.
Huh. My favorite character was also Jacob. He seems so sweet, even like with everything he's gone through. Like, he just seems soft and kind, and just a nice guy to follow.
Yeah.
He's a cutie.
Would you be throwing yourself at him in this dream?
I don't know. He's got a lot of baggage.
He always tries not to bring it up, though.
No, I know. He's very, yeah.
It's funny you say that, because like, I love that line in the movie. It's like one of the most telling lines of the movie, because when he has the first flip, so Jezzy's obviously, they pointed out in the movie, Jezebel, which has significance, biblical significance. But then if you flip it, Sarah, which is his actual wife's name, means princess, is what Sarah means. So on one end, when he flips over to like the good reality, he describes being with Jezzy as a nightmare. He goes, "Oh my God, I was with that lady from the post office." like you almost get the understanding that she's just some girl that maybe he thought was cute, like on just a basic level, and was just like, "Oh, that's a life I could have." And now it's like manifesting as the main. And I think the reason it's the main reality for him in his nightmare world is because it's the one without his son, so there's less pain. So his soul's residing on that side because there's too much pain on the other side. So it picked something that had no connection to him as the lady at the post office. Right? Like, it has like a very loose, like, oh, maybe he thought she was cute and I've shared a few words with her, but there's no real significance to any pain or connection to his family at all. That's kind of how I looked at it.
Okay.
Yeah. that's kind of what I got from it too. Is he was trying to avoid going back to Sarah in any way or anything.
Yeah. Who's
That's why
your?
Oh, go
Oh,
ahead.
sorry.
No,
No,
go ahead. We'll move down there. I was going to say that's why I love the Jesse scene where because it fits later. She actually physically burns his memories. She takes the photos.
Yeah.
And I love the line where she goes, "I don't like things that make you cry." Because it's one of those things where it's like, it's fucking evil if you actually think about what she's telling him. But it comes off as like, oh, like, I don't want you to be sad. But she's actually literally jealous and upset that he can't let go of this thing. And she's frustrated and mad. Or at least that's how he's interpreting it, which goes to the whole plot of she manifests more often on like the demon side of things and the bad side of things. She's actually in hell, in the version of hell when he gets drug out of the hospital, he sees her in the operating room.
Yeah.
Because she's one of the demons. Yeah. And she's a part of the demon orgy earlier in the movie.
Yeah.
At the party. Yeah.
Oh yeah, she's a centerpiece.
Who is your least favorite character?
George Costanza. Their lawyer that they go to. Jason Alexander, yeah.
Oh.
I feel like he's the slowdown of the movie for me. I'm going to be honest. I don't like that the movie, it's like, oh, we're going to go push this, and then it stops it, lets you go through more of the movie, and then goes back to it with the guy showing up. I think that could have been done a little bit differently. That's the one issue I think of the movie's pacing, is that it like brings all the military people back to him and says like, here's the conspiracy. They find a path to what they think hopefully deal with the conspiracy, which it doesn't even have to go anywhere. It's just all of a sudden he's like, I can't even prove that you were in Nam. And then later he's got a box of the stuff that proves he's in Nam. And it's just like, well, like, why didn't you just take him the box of things? And the guy's like really mad at him. Like he's really fucking mad at him, Jason Alexander. And I'm just like, I don't know. I didn't buy it. I was like, why would you be that upset? You know what I mean? Like, one, to just believe like, oh, we saw that, because they're coming to you telling you there's a conspiracy in the military. And then you're like, I checked if you're in the military and it says you're not. And it's like, well, that would be the first thing they do is erase him from the records. Like, that doesn't make any sense, you know? So that's the one part of the movie where I'm like, honestly, you could have cut it out almost completely, and I don't think it would have changed anything. But that's just me.
Yeah.
Okay. I don't really have anybody I totally didn't dislike. I was honestly excited to see George. I was excited because like I think
you did get excited.
Yeah,
when he showed up on the screen.
This movie has like a whole bunch of like really good like cameos of
it's got
actors.
A lot of them before they hit their big break. It's got a baby Macaulay, tiny Macaulay Culkin.
Yeah, like Vin Rames. I was like, I didn't even recognize him at the start of the movie, but it was during the funeral where I was like, is that fucking Vin Rames?
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh my god, he's in this movie. And then when Jason Alexander popped up, I was like, oh my god, it's just George Costanza, it's Jason Alexander. And little Macaulay Culkin, when we saw the photo of the first time, we both looked at each other and we were like, what the fuck?
It's before
I'm
Alone,
guessing that's his son.
Yeah, I'm like, I didn't know Macaulay Culkin was in this movie.
His dad asked him not to be in the credits. That's why.
Oh.
That's why we didn't know going into it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So it didn't fit his image.
Yeah, like I even really like Paul. Pruitt Taylor Vince. Paul was the one soldier who had shell shock. He was just sitting there like staring during the war. He's also the other guy seeing demons. I like him as an actor, so I like seeing him around. Yeah, I don't have a least favorite character, to be honest.
Yeah,
I don't. Oh, go ahead.
Go ahead. I was just gonna. I didn't want you guys to think I was mean to Jason Alexander. It's just he's slow. His performance is not bad. His character is just not needed in the film, I think.
Yeah, I can see
No, I agree.
But
I was actually going to steal your answer.
Yeah, I'm not going to shit on his performance. I don't want you guys to think I'm, he did great. I don't think there's a bad performance in the movie. So that's just me.
No.
Yeah, no. Yeah,
I'm going to steal your answer because I think that's where I got a little bored. So I'm going to say him as well. I was originally going to say Jezzy because she bothered me by the end of the movie, but I don't like, I feel like she was needed. She was heavily needed in this movie.
Mhm.
And it's funny because the first 10 minutes she was written down as a potential favorite character because I thought she was a badass bitch, and then all of a sudden she was just a bitch, and I'm like, no, I don't like you anymore. But I don't want to say she's my least favorite. I'm gonna go with the guy you said, Jason, because yeah, that's where I started drifting off a bit, like in my head. So
yeah, Jesse was like was up there for characters until the burning of the box and stuff, and like saying that one thing. I'm like, you gotta let this dude deal with this shit. You can't just throw away all of his memories and stuff.
Yeah,
that'd be like Sam going through my photo like album and like just burning them all, being like,
do you have a photo album?
I have a drawer. I have a drawer full of photos. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
That was
But
I think everyone has the drawer full of photos. What bums me out about that scene, I saw a podcast where, and someone, I don't know if you guys even thought about this, but it was like, it's such a small little thing, but that is so fucked up as the ex-wife to send your son with a bunch of photos to his dad's house to drop off the photos to the new girlfriend and be like, here's all your memories, like while your parents go through a divorce. Don't do that to your children. I watched the podcast where they're talking about that. I was like, yeah, that is so fucked up to your kids to like, yeah, go drop off all of your memories to your father.
True.
I didn't even think about that.
Yeah.
She burns them.
Yeah.
It's terrible.
Who do you think had the best performance?
Probably the Jacob's character. Probably. Yeah, Tim Robbins.
Yeah, same.
Yeah, I think that's an easy.
I think that's everyone's.
Yeah.
Going to be everyone's
Dude
answer.
goes through.
Did you guys I know you do facts at the end, so I don't want to spoil it if it's a fact, but did you know who they were considering for the role?
Yeah, I do. He doesn't know the facts, but you can say it. Go for it.
They were considering Tom Hanks, and I'm so glad that it's not Tom Hanks. Like, I don't know what movie we would have gotten with Tom Hanks as the lead. I can't imagine him in this film though. Like, I have a really hard time. So
yeah, I don't know.
It was gonna be him though. Like, it was. I think Tom Hanks was the one that actually said no. Like, they were in talks, and Tom Hanks was the one that made the final decision.
Trying to find it now because I don't know.
It's almost like how we almost got Will Smith as in the Matrix, you know. Like, I'm just like, I don't know how that would have worked. I don't want to live in that reality.
Yeah, I wouldn't either.
I can't find it now, but yeah. Score and soundtrack.
You know, it's funny. I'm not someone to recognize. Not you know, I always say this about scores in movies. If it's exceptional, I notice it. If it's good, I don't notice it. Which is actually like what sound designers say. Like, if you have a good score, it's not going to interrupt the movie. It complements it. You most of the time won't even. You shouldn't be paying super attention to the score. It shouldn't be overpowering what you're seeing. It should go along with it. So a good score, most of the time, you won't have a ton of thoughts on it. It'll just be like, oh, that was pretty great. This movie, though, I never really paid too much attention to it, and I saw it on the list. And then when I rewatched it the other day for this, my girlfriend, she's my wife, but she walked in and she's like, she looked at the film and she's like, kind of standing over my shoulder. She's not invested in it, but she's like, just, you know, watching the scene as it goes on. And she goes, I thought you were watching a novella. I go, why? And she goes, the audio, like the set, like this music in the background. She goes, I used to lay on a couch with my babysitter and she'd play novellas in the background. And she's like, the music sounds like a novella. And then the whole rest of the movie, it sounded like soap opera music to me. And I was very upset she said that. So I was like, it doesn't ruin the film for me, but there's a very like soft piano over a lot of scenes that I feel like's very late 80s, early 90s. That's like, it's not bad, but it's like you'll never hear that kind of melody in a film really ever anymore. Like it's a dated melody.
Okay.
I do feel like it's fine. It goes with the movie, but there's like some very like sappy, sentimental piano pieces in the film. Like I was actually shocked. Like as I was listening to it, I was like, wow, I never really paid attention to this. But there's some times where it's like, no, no, don't. Like it's like real, like, I mean, it's like full on piano pieces in a couple times in the film. So it's all right. I like it. What do you guys think?
Okay. I thought there was a couple fun songs like at the parties and stuff. I noticed a little bit of flutes, like a little native flute music going on in one scene. I probably hear that because I listen to native flute music sometimes when I go to sleep. It's very meditative. So I noticed that in one of the scenes, but that's pretty much it. I don't notice scores often either. And thank you for validating and why I don't notice them because I'm not supposed to, I guess.
Yeah.
What about you?
Yeah, it's pretty much in the same boat. I thought it was a good score. I only really like truly paid attention to it for the opening credits and the war sequence and a little bit after that, and then I just totally got invested in the movie. So yeah, hey, if it's not to stand out and to compliment the movie, I think it did a good job.
Yeah, I don't know who said it, but there was like a sound composer, like a score composer for, I don't know if it was a video game or a movie, but he basically said that, like, I'm gonna paraphrase, but he basically said, like, if we do our job, you don't notice it. Like if it
Yeah.
complements the thing properly, you shouldn't be pulled out unless you're actively like if you're like, I've seen this film and I want to hear what's going on.
Yeah.
But most of the time, it really shouldn't draw attention to itself. It should just kind of go with whatever you're seeing. So I feel like it worked until she said something. And then I was kind of like, it is a little sappy. But I feel like near the end of the film, it works. Like they play that same kind of music when they're going up the stairs. And I thought it was great. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
It has its
totally
place. It has its place in the film. It's good. It's nothing bad about it.
Yeah. What about cinematography?
There's some really nice. I feel like again, it doesn't. When it comes to like lighting and stuff, the movie's really good. When it comes to the setup of some shots, when he's in the bathtub, there's some really cool like overhead shots. I like all of the shots of Nam, the big wide open. Like I said, I don't know if it's B footage at the beginning, but the helicopters and everything, that's all real cool. The color palette of those scenes is really nice. Feels like Nam. I think for me, when it comes to the cinematography of the movie, like I don't know if on the rating scale you guys let people, I don't know how far how much you encompass into the word cinematography, but like a lot of the practical effects in the movie incorporated with the way the shots are set up. Like early in the movie, the lighting for the subway, and then when you get the backlighting on the guy as his head's doing the like flickering thing and he's kind of giving the wave out of the faceless person, all that stuff shot really beautifully. I feel like the movie, like it does close shots, very tight shots when he's on the subway and he's like trying to decide, because there's the switch on the track and he's like trying to decide what switch, like where to go. He doesn't know which track it's going to pick, so he's kind of like jumping back and forth. The camera zooms in real tight on him, and it gave me fucking anxiety. I'm sorry if I'm not allowed to go, but it gave me like the worst anxiety. I don't like tiny spaces, and to be in a dark tunnel with just this like blinding light at you. And I love how he's not looking at the train; he's looking down because he wants to see which one it's going to flip to. It's great. It's fantastic. I love that scene.
Yeah.
It's good, but it's the way it's shot. It's all the tight angles. It's all the but the movie doesn't do anything too fancy. So
yeah.
I have the opening credit or the opening war sequence, like we talked about earlier. I think it's shot that way to be extremely disorientating. I agree with the lighting choices. There's lots of like blue light and red light and just white light too within this movie that's used very well. And the car explosion scene, I think, is edited very well. I like how you have Paul sitting in the car. You have Jacob being like, "It's my lucky day." He goes down to pick the quarter up. You just hear the click, and then it shoots back over to Jacob's hand about to pick up the quarter. The quarter goes, and then he looks over at Paul, and then boom, explosion, and then Jacob goes flying. I thought it was extremely well done. I love that the quarter went first out of everything. Not the explosion happening, just the quarter went first, which is probably like another like hint that this sells things like a dream sequence. Like this thing didn't line up like it should have. It should have exploded, and then the quarter should have went.
Yeah. There's lots of little things like that throughout the entire movie where you're like, is that intentional? It's weird when you make plots where the whole thing's basically a nightmare. You kind of you almost set up an insurance policy for yourself where people are like, is that a mistake or are you fucking with me? You know what I mean? Like there's a little bit of that when you're watching this where you're like, is the quarter flying because he's in some kind of weird ass like not reality, you know, or is it an editing mistake? And I'd rather go with like it's I think it's intentional. And I'm glad you noticed that too, because it's definitely something I picked up on. So
yeah, that was the only one I did notice though. So I'm curious about going back and rewatching and see if there's anything else that was just off.
Well, so there's like little things that I picked. So there's a few scenes where the one in the bath is the big one. So like he's in the bath, and I think when it cuts to Nam, it's like raining. Right? So he's in the bath, and then when it cuts to Nam, it's raining. He's saying he's hot because he's dying, but the environment's cold, right? Because they're trying to cool him down with ice packs and stuff in real life. So they're actually trying to put him on ice to stop bleeding and to like kind of slow him down. And he's going like, get this fucking ice off of me, and in the ice bath, but in real life, they're actually trying to save his life. So he's interpreting it as like, I'm dying because of this fever. They flip over to the actual reality, and there's, you know, like I said, when every time it cuts to Nam, I think after he's crawling at the beginning of the movie, I might be wrong, but after he's crawling, there's a scene where he's crawling. From every scene after that, they're all in slow motion, which lends to the whole cinematography thing. So every time it cuts to Nam, when it does a flashback, you can especially see it when he's getting pulled up into the helicopter, but the blades are not spinning at full speed. So they're actually like doing very slow turns around and rotations. And I think that's why he's able to have like weeks. I mean, I don't know exactly how much time has passed, but it's at least like a week and a half, you know, because he has time between, you know, she goes, I haven't seen you for 2 days. And that's after Lou saves him. And then there's time jumps in between the movies. So he's experiencing like, you know, at least a few weeks. I don't know the exact amount of time, but he's experiencing like a few weeks worth of life. And, you know, what seems like after at the end of the movie, you realize it's probably only a couple of hours, right? Because it's sunsetting when he's stabbed. It's like a little bit before sunset. He gets found at night. And then I think at the end, it kind of has like an early morning kind of look outside when they kind of walk out of when the doctors are like, we're done here, you know? It's like early morning-ish. So I think it's only a course of like 12 hours probably. Or less. Yeah.
Jamie's bragging a bit and saying the movie looked amazing on the big screen.
I bet it did.
Yeah.
I didn't write too much for cinematography. I thought everything looked good, the lighting and everything. I really like the scene of him walking up the stairs at the end. I noticed that scene that you brought up with the car explosion too, but I didn't catch on to the fact that it was like that because it wasn't real or whatever. I was more so thinking like, oh, that's weird that they like he should have exploded by now.
Yeah, it's not like it's an atomic bomb where you're gonna get hit by like the wave of wind first, you know. This is just like a car explosion. But...
yeah. This is surprising because I didn't write anything for this character or this category, and it's my favorite. But do you have any favorite costumes and outfits? I feel like everyone was kind of just in clothes.
I mean, honestly, just if we want to go, it depends on what you want to mean by costumes, but I think the monster effects are cool. Like the tentacles that you see and a lot of like the practical effects. It all felt of the time. I know the movie was released in 91, I think, but it was, you know, it's supposed to take place like a few years after Nam. So I think we're in like the 70s. It feels of the time. Even when he's outside, like, you know, and you see, like I said, the girls singing at him, they all dressed appropriately. He's dressed. I feel like it sells what they're going for. But as far as like anything that stands out, I can't think of anything in particular.
Okay.
Yeah, I can't either. I like I'll go with like Vin Rames' outfit, like at the funeral.
Okay.
It's colorful.
Jezzy in her robes with nothing underneath.
She's naked throughout a lot of this movie.
She is naked. A lot. Did you have memorable lines written down?
Yeah, some of my favorite ones, like I said, are all the ones in Lou's office. The Lou, you look like overgrown cherub. The Santa line I think is really funny. The one with the palm reading. I don't want to steal yours if that's on it, but that's
okay.
I felt like that's one of the most haunting. When I first saw it, I was like, I almost felt like I had to pause the movie for a second because I was like, oh man, like it's because
It shook me.
it's the way she laughs. Like
Yeah.
it's the delivery of the line, the way she says it is like fucking terrifying.
So lighthearted.
Terrifying, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's good. Well, it's not even like it's like she has like it's like a I almost take it as like you're fucked. You know what I mean? Like someone kind of like you know what I mean? Like you don't realize how boned you are, kind of thing. Like that's how she comes off. Like oh god, you don't realize what's going on. Like you don't even have any idea what's happening to you, and it's funny to her. Like it almost makes you wonder if that lady was one of the demons. Like you don't really know. And the difference between them being angels and demons seems to be at the end of the movie like irrelevant. You know what I mean? That's the kind of the funny thing is like it seems like the intention of everyone was just to get him to the other side, whatever it is.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like I don't know. How do you guys view that? Is it like the intentions? Like, do you think because it's all in his head? So like when he's at the party, like, do you think that's like a demon talking to him or it's his own mind? Like, how do you view that? Like when she says that to him,
the lady, I think she's more in. I think I would consider her more a demon with the delivery of the line. Like she says, according to this, you're already dead. And the way she says it is just like so eerie and like, I don't know, creepy.
She's fun though. I like to take her more so as the angel.
The palm reader?
Yep.
Oh, okay.
She's also, I love, and I'm actually going to side with him a little bit because I love her line. And it's a kind line. I love the line where she goes, he's about to walk away, and she goes, let me get those big blue eyes one more time before you leave. Like kind of enjoying like the good part of him. Like she's acknowledging that he's a good soul. And she's like kind of like, oh, sweetheart, let me see you one more time before you go. Like she's acknowledging he's on a journey out. You know,
I'd have to see the
like,
scene
and
see her tone.
Yeah,
she's fun. She's super flirtatious with them too at the beginning of the scene.
Mm-hmm.
Desi recognizes that too. She goes, "Are you guys flirting?"
Yeah,
she kind of always.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I liked her.
Okay. Yeah. I wrote down she looks like a real bitch, Jezzy, in the beginning because I thought it was kind of funny, just the way she says it. And then according to this, you're already dead. And then I have just hang in there, dad, the little boy when he's got his leg hanging in the bed. He makes the dad joke. I thought it was cute.
I feel.
Oh, just the kids riffing. I said that's funny. There's good lines. The movie's not funny, but it has little tiny like you know.
I feel bad. I didn't write any lines.
That's okay.
I was too invested in the story to write. So like, I wrote a bunch of like favorite scenes though. So
okay.
I almost had to pick one or the other. But like with the chiropractor there, I did want to write a bunch of lines from his second meeting with him, but unfortunately I was too involved in the movie to write anything down.
That's the funny thing. Like the final meeting is the movie. Like when he sees the car, because it's basically they're telling you. You know, it's funny. Like it just because everyone goes through things in life, and as I've gotten older, it's like there are things that happen, especially like as I left high school and like early adulthood, that are generally negative things that feel very negative. that, loss of family members, or like moving, and like, just life stuff that happen, illness, stuff like that. And you go through it, and then it seems like almost always, almost 100%, there are very few exceptions to this in my life, but the further I get away from it, even if it's the worst thing that's ever happened to me, there's like some good pieces. And I almost never, if I'm in a good enough place when I'm thinking about it, I almost don't want to go back and change it, because I'm like, yeah, that sucked, but I have to do that to be where I'm at right now. And
I
it's
literally just had a conversation about this concept with my sister today. So
yeah,
weird.
yeah. And that's what I like about the movie, is that's the whole reality of it, is it's like, if you're holding on to the things in your life that are, because life's just going to pull things from you. It's just the reality of it. You can't hold on to anything. And that's not even a negative. It's just part of life. Like, you can't, most people, they're not going to have a job. They're like one job their whole life. You know what I mean? And if you hold on to that, I just had my brother, it's funny, 6 months ago, he had a job very long time. And I was like, you should get a new job. And he goes, why would I do that? I have a great job. They just let him go the other day. And it's just like, things happen, and you're going to, and it's a negative now, but then he could find a great job later on and be like, oh, this is the best thing that's ever happened to me. And for me, it's like, we were talking a little bit before we came on here, the whole concept of like, you really don't know what even a negative thing is going to bring into your life, because a negative thing can bring positive things to you down the line, and when I was a little kid, I think a reason this movie hit for me, I used to tell people when I was little, when I don't know why I thought about this stuff when I was a kid, but I used to ask people, like, if you could go back and like change things, like what would you go change? And I noticed if I asked an older person, it was almost always nothing. Like, if I asked anyone over like 35, it was generally like, I have regrets, but I wouldn't change anything. And I couldn't, like, being a kid, I could not grasp that. It was like, I don't understand the concept of like having negatives that you wouldn't want to alter. But I think that lives through a life of like doing the right thing and like being where you want to be and making decisions that you believe in. So even if you end up on the other side of it, even if there's negative things in between, hopefully when you get to the part where you want to be, you're in a better place. I think Jacob in the movie, what he's going through, he was basically robbed of that in life. If he would have lived long enough, he probably would have got over his son dying. He probably would have got over his issues with his wife that he was dealing with while he was a nom. He didn't get to address it because he's a nom, right? And we realize in the movie, he comes back in his mind and he's divorced. But that's because when he was a nom, they weren't in a good place because his son had died. He was they tell you in the movie, he had a PhD. So he went from a PhD, his son dies, he joins the army and ditches his family. He has 2 sons and a wife, and he just leaves them and goes to the army. That's like the definition of not dealing with things. Like, that's like a quantification of him like abandoning literally anything in his life and saying, I can't handle this, so I'm going to go all the way to the other part of the world and literally kill people, sign up to kill people because I'm angry, right? And then he realizes, I'm not this person, and now I'm going to die here, right? And I'm never going to get to reconcile with my wife, and I'm never going to get to make the bad decisions like Jesse, the girl at the post office. He never gets to do any of that. So his brain's going through all these things and saying like, what if, and like, what about this and what about that? And that's why I appreciate the film, because for me personally, it's kind of like an exercise in like what in life is important to you, and then understanding that, like, not that you're going to lose everything, but that you kind of have to let the experiences come and go, because when you hold on to them, that's where the pain comes from. When you're holding on to things and grappling and saying, I'm not going to let it happen, it's like life is going to force you to let it happen. You do not get to make that choice, you know what I mean? So that's why I like the film. Like, at the end, one of the last lines of the movie, he goes, you asked favorite lines, I want to add this. The guy goes, he looks like he's at peace. And he goes, yeah, but he fought like hell. And it's like he was literally in hell suffering because he wouldn't just let go. You know what I mean? And it's just this concept of like, that pain, if he would have lived, I would like to think Jacob would have eventually got through it, but he had to go through all of that really fast in a very short amount of time to reconcile to get to the other side. Like, that's kind of how I view it. So sorry, I'm rambly with you guys. I apologize.
No, it's good.
No,
it's a
it's
good deep
okay.
dive because these are things I didn't think of, and like we said, we only seen it once. So the fact that you've seen it a bunch of times and can kind of
Guide us.
put it together more, then the next time we watch it, we're gonna be like,
Well, that's I've never read it, but that's, I think, the Tibetan Book of the Dead, that's a theme of it, is that when you die, you're in a struggle of letting go, like your spirit is, and it's essentially like you as a spirit want as much as you can to stay in a physical form. So it's that process of separating from your physical form that's so painful. And it's so painful in their culture that they wrote a whole book about it. And then, you know what I mean? It's a big concept for them, but he studied that, and he applied Christian themes to it with the whole, like, the angels protecting him, demons and all that. That's all more Christian themes. And there's a little tiny bit of, I forget what story it was. Maybe I could pull it up really quick. But there's a Christian story that's kind of mixed in with it too. I don't want to spend too much time. If you guys want to read the next thing while I'm kind of looking at this, but there was a Christian story I wanted to point out that it's actually in reference to as well.
Next category is favorite kill, but we'll go with favorite death because it's not one of those movies.
The explosion was really great.
Yeah. I'm going with Jacob's. Like, the whole movie is his death.
Yeah, right.
I'm gonna go with his.
That's a good one, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Huh. I didn't really think about one, to be honest with you.
No.
I guess I'll cop out and go with Jacob too.
Yeah.
Yeah. I just feel like that car explosion, it's like one of the bigger pieces, and it's when they actually used to blow cars up. Nowadays they wouldn't probably. It's a special effect or whatever, but now they're actually blowing up vehicles, so I'm happy about that.
Yeah.
Just gonna say hey to Gizmo in the chat. Him and Holland are going back and forth about something, but hey to Gizmo.
Hey, Gizmo.
What's your least favorite death?
I don't really have one. I don't think I have one for this. It's not really I guess if I thought hard enough.
I'm gonna go with the sun because it's sad. I know it needs to be
see,
there,
that's where
but
you broke the context. So yeah, I guess the sun. His son dying. It's sad. Watching the scene again is sad. I collect baseball cards, and I have since I was little. So when he dropped the baseball cards on the ground, I was like, "Oh shit, that was me. I would have got hit by the car. I'd be dead." I was like, "That's."
Gotta save those cards. But yeah,
I would have went with Paul myself.
is Paul?
Yeah, Paul is the soldier buddy who gets a hold of him and has a drink with at the bar.
Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't think he deserved to go out like that.
No, he definitely didn't deserve it. He definitely didn't deserve it. It's honestly they could have killed any of the other members, and I don't think it would have had the same impact. But they killed the innocent guy, like the slightly heavy, emotionally disturbed innocent guy.
Mm-hmm.
Very unfortunate.
He's got very shifty eyes.
It's funny. Like, am I right or am I wrong? Is that the guy that plays? I could be completely wrong here. Is that the guy that plays the crazy dude? Well, I don't want to say crazy because that's kind of rude, but the bullied person in Full Metal Jacket?
No, that's
someone else,
D'Onofrio.
right? That's D'Onofrio.
Yeah.
Okay, all right. They have a similar look. And it's the shifty eyes. Because when he was doing the shifty eyes, I was like, "Is that the guy from Full Metal Jacket?" I was like, "What's happening here?"
So, the guy that plays Paul is in Constantine. He is a priest, I think. But I recognized him sort of by look, but it was the eyes shifting back and forth because his eyes also do that and that. And it just must be like a genetic thing or something. that he's got going on. But I was like, I did look it up after, and I was like, oh, it's that guy.
Okay. Have you seen the unrated cut of Jacob's Ladder? Gizmo's saying it's available online. It's known as the festival cut.
No, what does it change? I mean, I might have on accident, but I wasn't aware of it.
He said it was the last screening they ever did on the festival cut. All the clips removed from the film is on YouTube, and one clip is super freaky. So I guess you could check them out on YouTube.
Nervous. I get nervous when people add scenes back into a movie that were taken out.
Yeah.
Do you guys ever get nervous about that? Like when someone's like the director's cut, and you're like, I don't know if I want you adding shit. I don't know if you feel like it's the movie's like I told you guys a minute ago. My only criticism is maybe to take something out. I don't know if I want to add anything.
Add more.
Yeah. It honestly depends on the length of the movie. Like when they announced that Nosferatu was getting an extended cut, I was like, what else could they possibly add to this movie? And then I found out that it was only like 4 minutes. So I'm like, okay, that's not too bad.
But like the same thing with Ends. They were like, oh, extended, and it was like 4 minutes of useless scenes. I was like, what are you guys doing?
Yeah. It's the same with like anything anymore. Like Megan was like 30 seconds or maybe a minute of extra like gore sequences, and it's like the unrated director's cut fucking special
edition. If a director's cut is going to add more gore, then I'll prefer the director's cut. But if it's going to just make the movie longer and drag more, then I'm not down.
And I can tell you one thing that I absolutely despise. If the festival cut has that thing where, and this happens less now, but it's more with older movies, I hate when I watch like where they add the scenes back in and you're watching the film and then it gets shitty looking for like a minute and a half while they show you a scene that got added in, and it's like, this looks terrible compared to the rest of the movie, and the audio is like, it sounds like you're in an echoey room.
Yeah.
Like, no, I don't want to do this.
Bruce, hey Bruce, saw Jacob's Ladder at the Hollywood Cinerama Dome. I can't read that word. And was trying acid for the first time.
Oh,
bad
Jesus.
idea.
Yeah, no doubt. Bruce.
Sounds like a good time.
That sounds like a scary experience. That sounds terrifying.
Yeah, it does. What did you think of the special effects? I know we kind of talked about them already, but if you have anything
fantastic.
You want to add.
I think they're fantastic. Yeah. I honestly, when he's in the hospital and that guy with no eyes is like poking the needle into his head, man, I was just like, I can't do needles, especially like anywhere near the forehead or like anything. I've had very bad allergies and sinus problems when I was in like late high school. I used to have a collapsed septum, and to help me breathe, they would take a long needle and stick it into my sinuses. And I've only done it a couple of times, but I have like an absolute fear of long needles and anything. Like when they did it, I was just like, I'm in another place. I'm in another century. I'm not here. Like I can't handle it, man. It's so when he did and I love it because they're asking him. They're like, at that point of the movie, he's denying them so much that they're basically like, we're just gonna tell you you're dead. You know, like we're gonna keep. And they poke like the lady at the party. You're already dead, and they kind of like hint at it. And then when he's in hell, they're like, you're dead. Like, and he's like, oh, I'm not dead. Why am I? And they're like, well, why are you here right now? You know what I mean? And he's like, well, I don't understand. I want to go home. And they're like, there is no home, which I do like later in the movie when he gets into the taxi for the final scene of the movie. You don't know what reality he's in. You're not quite sure. And my wife was still kind of hovering, and he gets in the taxi and the guy goes, where do you want to go? And he goes, home. And he goes, well, where's that? And it cuts. You do not hear him tell him where to go. Like it doesn't tell you where he's going. So when he arrives at the building and the doorman is like, we haven't seen you in forever. And you're like, oh, okay. Like this is actually him arriving at the house instead of a dream, or like, you know, he's not having to hallucinate. Like in his world, like he's basically at the doorway now. Like he's going to like Lou helped him walk, and he's now walking up to the doorway. And then when he goes through the house, he's reconciling what happened. You know, he's kind of like coming to terms with what happened. And I'll tell you what, out of all like any movie I've ever seen, his son, when his son's got the little box at the bottom of the stairs, and he looks at him, he's like, "Hey, Dad." As a father, I don't know if you guys have kids or not, but as a father, shit kills me so bad. It's just like the moment he's like, "Hey, Dad," and it's the way his son kind of puts his hand out to kind of guide him up the stairs. I'm just like dying the whole time, dude. I can't. The end of the movie's it's fantastic. It's one of the few horror movies with like a really good ending because there's nothing negative about it. He was always gonna die. Like from the moment he got stabbed, like it's sad Jacob died, but it's like if you look at it as like he was going to die, and this is more like a battle for his where he's gonna go. Essentially, he won. Essentially, he went where he was supposed to. So I like the end of the movie. I
did too.
Great, yeah.
Oh yeah, me too.
Yeah. Special effects. Do you want me to? I have one fun fact thing. All special effects were filmed live with no post-production. For example, to achieve the famous shaking head effect, director Lin simply filmed the actor waving his head around and keeping his shoulders and the rest of his body completely still at 4. What does that stand for? F per second?
Frames per second.
Frames per second. Thank you. Resulting in an incredibly fast and deeply disturbing motion when played back at the normal frame of 24 frames per second.
Yeah, I love the faceless people in this movie. I think they all look great. One of the people in the car, remember when he's like somebody's trying to hit him with the car when he's walking down the bridgeway? One of the people in the back seat has like their hand in their face, like stuck in there, and I'm like, that looks fucking horrifying. Yeah, but I think all the effects are great. I really love the dancing, the weird tentacles and stuff that are happening.
When we saw the first one on the subway, I almost like did a double take. I'm like, I'm like, what the fuck? And then they just didn't touch on it again until later in the film. I'm like, what the fuck? What was that?
He double takes and the door closes on him.
Yeah.
He's like, what the fuck did I just see right now? You know? And I love later in the movie, you're still not quite like when I was watching the film at this point, I wasn't fully like he's in a dream world. And when he's going to his therapist and he's like, no, I need to see, like, I've been going here forever. And she's like, we don't have any record of you. And she bends down and the cap comes off.
I was going to bring that up too.
And there's like the nasty wart pustules on her head. I was like, oh, like, what is that? It looks nasty, dude. It's gross.
This almost felt like a season of American Horror Story, a little bit like Asylum mixed in with Murder House. For me personally, that's the vibes I got at times.
I was getting like Lovecraftian vibes for a little bit.
It feels like a lot of things, and that's why I got so scared, like, when I recommend this movie to people, and that's kind of why I asked you guys, like, how quickly. I feel like at the time it wasn't played out, but the whole like, you're dead, you've been dead the whole time, like that's a thing that's now been done. You know what I mean? Like that's been done for a while. I got really worried because I don't think that I showed this to a friend of mine and he goes, I caught the twist early and the movie sucked. And I was like, it's not a twist movie. Like they're not trying to be like, I gotcha. Like they tell you multiple times. Like
many times,
I think when he wakes up on the subway, and I'm not insulting anyone who does get like, if you are like, oh, I didn't see that at the end. It's not a negative. It's just the movie. Like I feel like it plays with expectation. One of the first things you see when he wakes up is a sign. I forget exactly what it says, but it basically says like, it's like an advertisement. It says like, you're in hell. And it's like in big letters on the subway. And I'm like, oh, there you go. You know, like it's right there. So
Bruce says it's the whole movie, his moment of death, fighting it until he walks up the ladder with his son, ? I guess that's kind of
moment he got stabbed.
Yeah.
Is my interpretation. Yeah. So
yeah, that's what I thought too. Yeah, like when you say it tells you a bunch of times, I caught on to a couple times, but I still questioned if I was right or not. Like by the end of it, I was like, oh, okay, so he was dead. But like I still questioned it the whole
they do it so brazenly, you almost feel like they're fucking with you a little bit. Like you almost feel like they're messing with you, like because they just tell you, and you're like, is there anything else to this? You're just telling me, like, you know, because when he tells Lou, like I said, it's almost as direct as possible. It's like, you look like an angel, and he's like wearing white above him with a big light hanging down, and it's just like, oh, okay, like you're just gonna tell me, you're just gonna straight up tell me he's an angel. All right, let's go for it.
Yeah, because I took it as like, I don't know. I knew this movie was about PTSD from like Vietnam and stuff, so that's basically where my mind was going throughout the whole movie.
You told me that, and that's where my brain was going too.
That's
at
all I
times.
knew.
Yeah.
That's all I do. So like I was expecting maybe like for him to be like in a psychiatric hospital throughout the whole movie, and maybe this was like a dream scenario he was having in his head, or him trying to work through things.
And
I did.
Oh, go ahead. I don't mean to cut you off. Go ahead.
No, it's okay. I just did. I wasn't expecting him to have be in the process of dying. That kind of thing irks me a little bit, but I don't think it's as bad as like when it's a dream.
I have thoughts on this. It irks me if it's done like a magic trick. If it's done like a Shyamalan movie where it's supposed to, they want to pull the you know, the what's the tablecloth real fast and leave all the, like, if it's to like shock you really quickly and to make an action where it's like, oh, you were watching this whole movie thinking he's alive, and our big twist of the movie is he's actually dead. I get it. It feels cheap. But for me, it's like, when you rewatch the film, especially, I don't think it hides it. And I think it's so focused on the experience he's going through that the story is so intrinsically tied, like, into the journey that he's going through, like, as he's crossing over, that it's not a movie where they're like, oh, ha ha ha, you didn't know he was dead the whole time. It's like, this is a story about dying. Like, it's a story about dying. You know what I mean? So it's like, how do you tell a story about dying if he's not in the process? There's a film, I don't want to say what it is because I might spoil it for people. So I'm going to not say the title of the film. But there's another film made in I think it's 2000, early 2000s, that touches on a very similar concept of, you don't know the character is in the process of death. I won't say the name of the film. And that film, that's the twist. Like, there's nothing really, it doesn't say anything other than, and people did not like that movie all that much. It's a nice movie. It's not terrible, but it doesn't have any of the baggage that this movie has with like him going through what his son went through or any of that. It's just truly, this other film I'm talking about is truly just your brain is like seeing and doing weird things because you're dying. And we don't know the whole film. And then the reveal at the end is, this is a death dream. Like, this is his death thoughts, you know? But this film, I feel like it's like, we had to have it be a death experience because that's the only way to tell the story. But I don't feel like they're trying to be like, gotcha. You know what I mean? Like, at the end of the film, I don't think it's a big Shyamalan-y twist. I actually think you could be told directly, before you turn on this film, I think someone can say he's dead, like he's dying.
Watch the journey.
And still watch the movie and enjoy it for what it is and not have that be hidden from you, which is kind of what I was going through, because when I first saw this film, I didn't know anything else other than he's going through some kind of death process. Someone said some version of that to me. They were like, oh, it's that guy. Like, and to some people who know biblical themes, the title Jacob's Ladder is a dead giveaway. You know what I mean? Like, people who know like biblical theming and like people like, I mean, the title Jacob's Ladder is, you know, it's symbolic of the journey.
I don't know biblical stuff,
so I don't know.
Yeah, it's the concept of the journey to heaven, like out of darkness into heaven. So it's like, it's the idea that he's, you know, and they try to link it in the movie. I thought it was very creative how they take that biblical imagery, and he goes, instead of going up the ladder to heaven, it's down the ladder as fast as you can into darkness and rage and hate, is how the guy describes it. So the guy describes it, instead of going out of the darkness into the light, which is what the movie's about, he says that they designed a drug that pulls you as far down as quickly as you can, go down the ladder into darkness. And he's like, it's the most evil. That's chilling. I do want to say that you guys asked like scary moments, or you asked something about that earlier. It was like, that scene is absolutely terrifying when he's kind of telling them about the monkeys and the kids. Mm-hmm. I don't know how much that affected you guys, but I was like, I mean, just the way he's like, it was worse than the monkeys. Like, when he tells them that about what the people did to each other, I'm like, oh man, you could tell he feels bad
Yeah.
too. Like you could tell there's like massive guilt over what happened. So I do like it.
Yeah.
But then it's like, did that conversation? Obviously, it didn't happen.
It didn't. No.
Does that man exist? Right?
Yeah.
Like it's one of those things where it's like, I mean, I don't know. It's a good movie. I like it a lot. Do you ever watch the remake?
I was gonna ask you at the end of this conversation if it was any good or it's not worth watching.
It's everything you'd be worried about that they would do in a sequel to this movie, where it's just like kind of take all the symbology out of it and just make it a bunch of like jump scares and kind of miss the point.
Okay. I'm curious still though.
I don't think you'd walk away from it saying that's the worst thing I've ever seen, but I don't think you'd walk away from it thinking it elevates the original or respects it. Like that's kind of the interpretation that like even people who weren't offended are like, that's not a good remake of something. You know what I mean? Like it's not, it doesn't do what it's supposed to do. So
okay.
Favorite scenes, if you haven't named any already that you want to bring up.
Oh man, not off the top of my head. I mean, like I said, the ending's fantastic. I think what's her name? Elizabeth Pena, the girl who plays Jessie. I think she's a great actress. She steals like every single scene she's in. And I think, you were talking about how she was almost a favorite character. She comes off as loving and caring and then immediately as undermining and evil, sometimes from sentence to sentence. So there's this moment where you're like, oh, she's kind of a nice girlfriend. And then you're like, oh, this is an evil person. Like, what are you doing? Like, you know what I mean? Like, you don't care about him at all. So there's lots of moments where it switches. I do enjoy any scene she's in, any scene Louis in. And I feel like overall, there's not really anything I didn't touch on. I think that's pretty much it.
Okay.
As far as good scenes.
For me, I don't have anything. I don't have anything I haven't brought up.
I agree with any scene that Jessie was in, especially the lighthearted ones in the beginning where they're like just having a good time in a relationship before she becomes kind of brutal. I like those scenes a lot. Kind of lightens the tone a bit before things get bad. And then the part where the girls are all singing on the corner, I thought was kind of cute. So I like that you brought that up. And then when he's on the when he's strapped down to that bed and they're carrying him through and there's limbs all over the floor and the people on top of I'll call it a cage. I don't really know cage. Cage, it freaked me out. I was like, ooh, this is creepy. Like,
the lady,
I
didn't notice the lady breastfeeding until this last watch.
Yeah, very barbarian.
I missed that every other time. I was like, oh, what's happening there? The baby looks very fake. I was like, the baby's like very stiff, and I was like, all right. That's what I get for watching on 4K television. I just
yeah.
Do you guys hate watching certain movies on 4K? Like, do you guys have a 4K TV? Yes, I just recently upgraded. My bedroom TV is one, and my downstairs. I was late to it, and there's some movies I don't mind, but man, there's other movies where I'm like, this looks cheaper. It looks like I'm in the room, and I don't like that. Like, I don't want to feel like I'm like standing in a room and just like there's a dissonance with films that I really like. You know what I mean? I don't want to necessarily feel like I'm in there with them. I want it to have that like movie sheen over the top of it, So
yeah, so there's a was it QELD or whatever it is,
QLED,
yeah, that's like what the whole new thing is. So my RTV is like a basic 4K TV. It just does 4K. It's got the it doesn't have that. I think when you hit that point, it's too real looking.
Yeah,
I just don't need that realistic.
There's an uncanny valley that starts to happen where it's not fun to watch it anymore.
It takes me right out.
Matt's here, just popping in and say hi. You folks are awesome. This movie made me feel like I was on LSD, and I've never taken LSD. True. Hey Matt. Thanks for being here.
Do you have any Jezebel fun facts or no?
Jezebel.
Jezebel. What did I say?
It sounded like you said jizz.
Oh.
Fun facts?
Yeah.
I don't think so.
Oh yeah, because Coy brought up that Jezebel is a very biblical name, and it's been bothering me this entire fucking.
You're
thing.
like, why?
What? Give me the symbolism for and the biblical meaning for Jezebel.
I forget the name of the people, but she was basically I don't know if she was a queen, but she was connected to a king. I'm going to cut out all the biblical names just to kind of make it easy. But essentially in the Bible, she led her people away from God towards a false god and out of the light and into darkness. So she was a usherer of a bad time for that people and basically led to their destruction.
Creepy.
So she is leading him out of the light and into the darkness, away from what he's supposed to have. You know what I mean? And because she's stealing his family from him. Like, she's the bad choices, right? And that's why Sarah's princess and she's literally like the harlot. You know what I mean? So
I wonder if that's why she's naked half the time, because she's kind of like seducing him to that side.
Yeah. That is part of it too. But it's literally she's leading them out. She's leading him away from the light is the biblical reference to it.
Okay, cool.
Okay.
Do you have any least favorite scenes in this movie? Jason Alexander.
I can just read it. If you guys don't mind, I can just read a little small. I wrote, this can help. This is like the actual historical. I might mispronounce something, but it says, according to the biblical narrative, Jezebel replaced Yahwehism with Baal and as Asherah worship, and was responsible for Naboth's death that caused irreversible damage to the reputation of the dynasty, who were already unpopular among the Israelites. For these offenses, Jezebel was, I don't want to say that word, and devoured by dogs under Jehu's orders. Anyways, she was basically, to most people of that time, considered to be the reason why things went bad, and she basically started the dark times for the people that she was above.
Okay.
Yeah.
Big Rod. Jezebel is a seductress.
Yep.
Okay.
So
sorry, did you have least favorite scenes or?
No, I'm gonna be honest. There's nothing really in the movie that stands out as anything. Anything with Jason Alexander. No, I'm just kidding. I'm just messing.
I don't really have anything that I haven't brought up already, like just burning the photos and stuff I didn't like right away. And I also put down getting robbed by Santa Claus, but like, I don't know. That doesn't. That's not really a.
He was a good Santa Claus. Actually, he was doing him a favor. He said, "You only got one photo left. Let me take that, there, bud." I like how he's not worried. I mean, it goes to the theme of the movie. You know, he doesn't say like, "Oh, he took my ID or my money." It's like that was my last photo. Like, he's in he's being wheeled in. He's disoriented and he's worried about the photo. So it just shows you how hard he's holding on to that. And as he's holding on to it, he can't walk, he can't move, and he's being drugged into literally like the worst situation in the movie. You know what I mean? So it's just, I don't know. I like it. It's good. Santa's not that bad. We're gonna forgive Santa for what he did.
Scary rating out of, oh my god, did we do 10?
Yeah.
Why am I blanking? We do this every week. Scary rating out of 10, 1 being not scary at all and 10 being the scariest movie you've ever seen. What would you rate this?
Like a 6 or a 7.
Yeah.
For just being scary.
What about you?
Yeah, I'd go with like a 5. I was actually pretty unnerved throughout the movie. I wouldn't say I was scared, but I was definitely on the edge of my seat and curious.
I have a little fact for you guys before we go. You mentioned earlier that American Horror Story.
Yeah.
So it was saying the film's influence on their works was also recognized by Ryan Murphy, the writer of 2011 TV series American Horror Story. So,
I
Asylum.
literally,
Yeah.
when I was driving today, I hit the Google mic thing because I was driving and I wanted to be safe, and my sister was in the passenger seat. So I hit the little Google mic and I was like, was American Horror Story Asylum inspired by Jacob's Ladder? And then I realized I had to still read my phone, and I was like, okay, I'm not going to read and drive. So I put my phone down. And I was like, I'll look at that after. And I completely forgot.
It
So
actually
thank you.
is, which is crazy.
Thank you.
Yeah.
That's so funny. The whole scene where he's strapped to the thing and like in the asylum, like that, I was just brought right back to that show, that season.
I mean, it's crediting it for like if I read through this, it's like it's crediting it for Silent Hill, Resident Evil, episodes of X-Files.
Wow.
Avenged Sevenfold, the band credits it for some stuff for a couple of their music videos. So I mean, it's simple. It's
Cool.
it's I think when you rate something for like its impact, I think that kind of speaks for itself, So
Yeah.
I feel like I already know the answer, but rewatchability and would you recommend?
yes, I would, and I don't know how I feel like most people would say it's not super rewatchable, but I feel like I can. I feel like there's enough good dialogue and enough scenes where I feel like it's a movie that when I rewatch it, it's going to be mostly to show people, like to see like one of those films where you're looking at them instead of the screen the whole time because you're waiting for reactions. I love that. I don't know if you guys, some people think that's weird, but I love watching reactions to movies. Like I like watching someone enjoy a movie for the first time.
Mm-hmm.
I do too. I just never get the opportunity because we don't hang out with anyone.
Yeah, I'm always like,
but I do too. I'm always like, oh, I gotta show this to someone.
Yeah.
And I mean, I'll literally like, there's times where like I'm that guy where like something crazy will happen. You look over at me and I'm looking at you going, yeah, like waiting for you,
I do the same thing when I show Sam movies too that she hasn't seen.
Yeah.
And
and then you show me Shaun of the Dead and I had no reaction and you
Yeah,
were mad
that
at me
upset me.
after.
No, that happens too. We don't talk about those. My wife does.
Yeah, we don't talk about that.
I'm used to that. My father is the king of we have such different taste in film, but he's the guy that got me into movies. And there's times where I show him something, and I always tell people, if you show my dad a movie and he didn't like it, he'll say it's okay. If he liked it, he'll be like, it was good. And then if it's like nothing, he'll be like, it was all right. Like that's all you're ever gonna get is like, no, good, all right. Like you're gonna get a couple of words and that's it. And I was like, it's all how he delivers it. That's how you kind of decide how good it was, The times you did a really good job is where he'll be like, oh, you know what? That was actually a good recommendation. Like that's the most you're gonna get. Like that's the most you're gonna get.
Man of few words.
Yeah, you must have an amazing poker face.
He's hard. He's like squeezing water out of a stone, man. It's difficult. So
yeah, for me, I don't rewatch movies often, and I feel like because we just had this long discussion about it, it'll be a while before I do rewatch it. But I would like to eventually, now that we know the ending and that we've discussed it all with like the angels and demons and everything, stuff I didn't even pick up on, it would be interesting to look at. I kind of want to see the remake. Don't judge me, all, but I kind of want to see the remake.
I don't think you're. It's like one of those things where if someone came to me and they were like, do a Jacob's Ladder movie, right? I don't know if I would go immediately back to, well, no, even if I did it, like say I agreed to do it, I don't know if I would just do the same war story again and like have the same war elements. I feel like you could take the story, and I know this might sound insensitive, but you could do it with like a drug addict. Like he's ODing and passing away, or you could do it with like literally there's so many different near-death experiences.
I like that.
Yeah, and you could have
different.
That's what I'm saying. But they just, from what I understand, I've only seen scenes and clips here and there. I feel like I've watched it through osmosis because I've talked to friends about it. But it's from what I see, it's basically just the same movie again with lesser elements, which I could be wrong, but I think that's what I've been told for the most part. And from what I've seen, it seems to be correct that it's just mostly the same movie. I don't know. It is what it is. I get kind of sad when people remake films and it's just like you have to. Yeah, see, it says right here it was broadcast on the Dish Network. Like they just kind of gave up on it. They were just like it didn't even get a theatrical release. So
Okay.
maybe I'll
What
sit
about
down
you?
and watch the whole thing. If you guys ever want to do a review again, maybe we should review the remake just for shits and giggles. I'll sit down and watch the whole thing.
Yeah,
Sure.
we can do
Yeah,
that.
we can do that.
Yeah, in the future. We don't have to set a date or anything. If you guys ever want to do that, maybe that'd be a good idea. Just
Sure.
to sit down and actually say I sat and watched the whole thing
Watched
all the way
it.
through. Yeah.
Yeah.
Give you an excuse to watch it.
Hate watch. We can hate watch it. How about that?
Rewatchability, what would you recommend?
Oh, of course, absolutely. Rewatchability. I don't know. I'm not dying to watch it like today or tomorrow. Like I got plans, and
I got plans.
Yeah. I my time after this is already booked. So
Touching on what Sam said though, and I didn't really think about this, like because I've seen it a couple times, but I guess I would say it has pretty high rewatchability because it is a movie where you're gonna want to like, what did I miss the first time? So I guess there is a level of that. You know, I didn't really think about that. So
yeah, of course. It's just like watching like The Sixth Sense. Like you got to watch it a couple times before you see everything.
Donnie Darko. We just watched
Donnie
that. That was
Darko,
my first time,
yeah.
and I already am like, I gotta watch that one again.
Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, I think the rewatchability is pretty good for this movie, and of course I recommend it. I think it was great.
Okay. Shout out to Big Rod. He's talking about it starting his channel in the chat. Everyone check that out.
Yeah, absolutely. Go subscribe.
Joel's here too. Hey,
Hey,
Joel.
Joel.
He has not seen Jacob's Ladder. Good thing we are wrapping things up so you won't hear the spoilers. We're just going to do our final movie rating, which we do out of 5. We're just going to do a 5-star rating. It's okay if we drop the emojis now.
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay, so final movie rating out of 5 stars. What would you rate this movie?
I'd give it like. Do you guys do points or is it just like okay? I do like a 4.8. I don't think there's a perfect film, but it's pretty close. You know,
Okay.
so
I'm gonna go with a 4.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah.
I think it is a really great movie with a really great story. It's just that little bit that dragged for me that I'm like, can't quite give it a 4.5 or a 5. But yeah,
I think for sure. Oh, go ahead.
I was just gonna say I think I'll like this movie more on a rewatch.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
Me too.
I feel like I can't say for sure, but I feel like the middle part that drugs probably interference, like studio interference. I because there was so much of it. I doubt they didn't get their hands on something, and I'm just like, what did they force into the movie? And I'm like, Jason Alexander. They forced Jason Alexander into the movie.
When did this come out again? 91?
91. I think it was the very beginning of Seinfeld. Like Seinfeld hasn't really took off yet.
I was gonna say maybe it was a couple years in, and Jason Alexander and Jerry Seinfeld are like the hottest things, and they're like, let's just shove him in there real quick. We can have a couple days with him when he's not shooting Seinfeld.
Yeah, it's weird. You know, when you're watching the film, it feels kind of like they drop elements. Like you don't see Ving Rhames again, and you don't see. And he just kind of drops it, but then you're like, oh, he's dying. Like they're not. It's not happening, so it's okay. Like it's weird. It's at the end of the movie, it justifies a lot of the problems because of the way the film is structured. So that's why I was saying, like, it's like built-in insurance policy. That's like, even if there's slight things that you don't enjoy, it was a death dream, you know, but in a good way. It's like not a bad thing, you know. It's good.
Yeah.
I'll read off some fun facts here. So I already read that one about the no post-production. Certain imagery was inspired by the photographs of Joel Peter Witkin. Most recognizably, the image of the hooded, legless man shaking his head is inspired by Witkin's 1976 photograph, Man with No Legs. All ads in the subway and Bergen Street station are anti-drug ads. At around 10 minutes, the Bergen Street station in the film was actually an abandoned lower level portion of the station, which had to be retiled and fixed to look as if it were still in working condition. This is, yeah. So Adrian Lin turned down directorial duties on The Bonfire of the Vanities so he could direct Jacob's Ladder. His first choice for the role was Jacob Singer was Tom Hanks, but by coincidence, Hanks turned down the film so he could make The Bonfire of the Vanities. Served as a major inspiration to the early, we already said this, the Silent Hill, yeah. According to director Lin, the drug aspect of the story was inspired by the Martin A. Lee and Bruce Schlane book Acid Dreams, the CIA, LSD, and 60s Rebellion. At around 4 minutes, according to director Lin, most of the dialogue in the opening scene between the soldiers was improvised on set by the actors themselves, especially the conversation between George and Jacob about masturbation. The hospital gurney that carries Jacob was deliberately unbalanced by Lin. He raised one wheel slightly off the floor, causing it to rattle and spin. And I already mentioned this as well. Macaulay Culkin was uncredited. His father didn't want him to be credited. It didn't suit him. His whatever image.
Yeah. He removed him from a classic.
Yeah.
What? Yeah, it's ridiculous.
I bet you still got paid though.
What's the? Oh, that's only for television. I was like, I heard child actors don't get royalties or didn't for a long time, but I think that might have just been television.
Oh, I'm not sure.
Because I remember a lot of the Nickelodeon kids, people were like, how are you not rich? And they're like, we don't get paid royalties. So there you go. Like we don't get any back end. So it is what it is. Thanks for having me on, guys. I'm sorry.
Thanks for coming on.
Chatting.
Hey, it's okay. I think you gave us a new love and appreciation for this movie.
Yeah, that you caught on
to.
You showed us so many things that I didn't catch on to. So it was actually really nice. I felt like I watched a deep dive video myself, but I was in it.
There's even more. It's one of those things where, like I said, the guy, he literally traveled across the world and was like immersing himself in religions and ideas. And I feel like this is the best. That's what I'm saying. Like, if it was a film that was just trying to do a gotcha, that's like, oh, he was dead. Oh, there's a fun little twist. But I feel like it's more just like, it's almost someone just trying to explain ideas about life to you in a fun, entertaining way. That's like, how do I get this out to you in a way where you can ingest it and enjoy it, but then walk away and a month later you're like, maybe I'm thinking about my life in the wrong way. You know what I mean? Like maybe I'm thinking about what happens to me and not the best, you know what I mean? Because I'm going to be honest, like I'm at a point in my life where I got my own place now and I've moved on. But like 2 years ago, when around the time where I had started rewatching this film, I was kind of at a point where I was like, this sucks. Like life sucks right now, And now I'm at a part where I'm like, it sucked, but I'm so glad I'm like, I had to go through this to get here. So I'm very, very happy, And I think it's like, it's what Lou said. It's like how you view and how much you resist life just being life and reality being reality is kind of where a lot of the pain comes from, And I feel like the movie, that's really that's the lesson, at least from my view. That's the lesson of the film, So.
No, I like that.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah. We should definitely review the remake and let's wait a couple months to digest this one first.
Yeah, no problem. Yeah.
And then then I'll probably be feeling up to watching it, but I'm down to do that if you are.
Yeah. Just let me know whenever you guys want to. I really appreciate you guys having me on though. It was really fun.
Yeah, of course. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much for coming on.
And thanks to everyone that tuned in the chat tonight. Again, Ryan's got your link in the chat so everyone can go sub to you.
And I love seeing your guys' channel grow. You've been doing really great things. So it's really
nice.
You.
Oh, thank you.
Appreciate it.
Yeah, it's really good.
Hey, you guys, that it's been a year.
What's the do you guys like, and I don't mean anything negative by it. Some people do you guys have goals for do you have is there an idea? I don't want to say this because people think it's a negative, but is the goal to make money one day, have it be a self-sustaining thing? Is it just a hobby and you guys are fine with it being whatever it's going to be? Is it kind of a let it happen? It's say la vie, or is it kind of we let it happen out of it? Okay.
It would be nice if one day, we were making money, but
yeah, I'm okay with just chatting with people and talking movies.
It's fun to do. And it's not sitting upstairs but like every night in the evenings and just watching TV, and like we can actually come and socialize and not have to leave the house too. It's a creative outlet for me too, because I get to do all the editing and everything, so I really get invested in even just making the layouts for whatever episode we're doing, or if we're doing a topic or a bracket. Like it's a project I get to work on the side, because I have time off work sometimes and I go crazy. I go stir crazy. We don't have kids either, right? So we're just
well, you
chilling.
guys asked me about my channel, and it's like that's kind of like, I hate to say this, but it's like the dilemma I'm going through is deciding that, you know, because people don't, no one ever want, you know, we all lie on camera, like, or most people do, but like the reality is like there are two different kinds of YouTube channels. There's like the fun, like this, like a hobby where it's like I'm enjoying talking, and those can make money. There's no one saying that there can't be some profit level, but like it seems like either at the beginning of your channel or at some point, kind of like a year in, most of the time, you have to kind of make a decision. Do I want to like fully push this as a moneymaker kind of thing, or do I want this to be an outlet for me? And I've seen channels like change where they kind of shift, where it's like you see them go, okay, I'm gonna cut out the curse words and I'm gonna cut back on this and make it more for everyone, and kind of do like structured reviews of every movie that comes out, and I'm gonna talk about the most popular things and not necessarily what I want to talk about, and like things like that. And I'm like deciding that for myself. I'm like, what kind, because the content I want to make isn't necessarily the stuff that's going to bring in the most views. And I'm going to be real, I'm having a crisis of faith, because I'm like, do I just want to be another guy making a fucking tier? Sorry, I don't know if you guys allow cursing, but do I just want to make another tier list channel? You know, like, do I want to just be like, this goes into S category and this goes into the V category? And like there's so many channels doing the same thing that I'm like paralyzed, because I'm like, I don't want to start and then have to pivot. And I see a lot of people having to do that. I don't know if you guys watch like a lot of these horror channels, but I feel like because Halloween's on hiatus, like Scream's kind of carrying it right now, but like because Halloween's on hiatus, there's a lot of these channels that became very big during the pandemic, like 30, 40, 50, 60,000 subscribers. And I'm not trying to talk shit, but they're like, they're kind of dead right now, and it's not their fault. They're making the same stuff. I just think what is popular on YouTube always changes. And for me personally, like, I'm like, man, I don't necessarily want to make what's popular, because what's popular is these soulless tier rankings. Like, let's talk about every, I'm just going to use an example. Like, let's talk about every Captain America movie. And then I'm going to release one review for each one. And then I'm going to rank them. And then a month later, when the new one comes out, I'm going to rank them again. After you just heard me talk about them 5 times, I'm going to rank them again with that new one added in. And that's the only difference in the entire video. I'm going to do that over and over. And then a week later, I'm going to do the MCU ranking now that Brave New World's in. And now I'm going to do and it's like, how many people have the Scream series ranked? And now Scream 7's going to come out, and they're going to do the Scream series ranked plus Scream 7. And it's just like, you're regurgitating the same shit over and over and over again, because there's no soul and there's no passion. I see guys like you, where I come on here and I'm like, I could listen to hours of this, because it's people just talking about movies that they enjoy. But I'm trying to find a balance between, I want to make money. I'm just going to fucking say, I want to make money on YouTube. And like, for me, I think a lot of people do. I'm not going to lie. I'm not going to lie. If I'm going to devote thousands of hours into something, I want to make fucking money. It doesn't have to pay all my bills, but I want a return. And for me, it's like, I have to on my own. And if you guys ever have ideas, you can throw them out at me. But like, I'm trying to find a balance between like a hobby outlet and a vocal outlet for because I want to talk about, creative things and things that inspire me, but that don't make money. You know what I mean? Yeah. And it's like, for me personally, it's like, I just don't know. I'm at the start of my channel. Maybe this isn't the place to talk about this. I'm sorry, guys, for
that's okay. It's a good conversation,
because you asked about my channel, and I'm just like, man, like I feel paralyzed by it, because I'm just like, I don't know what direction, because for years I was like, I want to do a channel. And I'm seeing all these people make content. And then I got to the point where I can do it. And I started I literally edited a few videos, and I went, I'm just copying these people. Like, I'm just copying this other guy's content that I saw and acting like him. I'm not acting like me.
Yeah.
I'm doing what they're doing because it works. But honestly, I've been watching a lot of these. It doesn't seem like it's working all that well anymore. And I'm just kind of like, I feel like there's a shift that's going to happen. And I'd either like to be the person that figures out the balance or finds my own way, you know. And I don't know what that looks like right now. So when people ask me like, what's your channel look like, I'm like, I don't know. At this point, I'd like to say I have an idea, but I don't really know. So when I see channels like you guys where it's like fucking taining, I love listening to your guys' channel. For part of me, I'm like, how do I take this hobby like feeling and then also apply it to like streamlined videos every week where you get like 2 releases every week and it's like this and that and this is what the video, you know what I mean? It's for me, it's like I'm wanting to take the essence of what you guys do and then kind of add my own to it and find a place, hopefully, because I like this. This is fun. This is actually enjoyable. This is nice. This is, you know what I mean? Because I think everyone on YouTube just wants that community. And that's the most important part. I don't think you can have a successful YouTube channel without a community behind it. So
I agree. And you just have to have fun doing it. Otherwise, it's like, it's taxing. And whether you're doing it as a hobby channel or a business channel, it's going to be work. I literally treat this as a second job. Like,
you're so right.
I put in hours of work just doing thumbnails and changing the channel member page and like just doing everything. Like, it's going to be a lot of work regardless. I think the main thing is consistency. You're having fun, because if you're not having fun, people aren't going to want to watch you because you're going to be dull and boring. But people are also going to want to see your personality, right? So literally just have fun doing it. And don't overthink it too much in the beginning. I know it's really hard. I get
so
it.
hard. It's so difficult.
Hard.
And it's like, it's, you know, people underestimate how hard it is to put yourself out there. It really does, you know, because I mean, it's like you're giving people what you'd like to think is an entertaining version of yourself. But at the same time, it's like, I can't judge that for myself. I can't judge what's entertaining. Only they can, you know? So you have this idea of like, I have to give them something so they can digest it and give it back to me. But then at the same time, you want to give them something nice. You want to give them something that's fun and enjoyable. And that's another thing too. Like YouTube right now for me, and you guys don't fall into this category, but I feel like a lot of it is just like people walking around telling each other how much they like a movie, and there's no criticism. And if you criticize anything or say anything even like slightly salacious, they're like, I don't want anything to do with this because I don't want to offend anyone that could come in here and I said that the movie that they like is shit, and now they're not going to want to watch my channel because I criticized their taste in a film. So when I watch reviewers and they're like, I didn't like this film, but it'd be really, you know, if you like it personally, if you like it, it's okay. I just want you to know it wasn't for me. And if you like, and they're just repeating over and over again how it's like, hey, don't be mad at me, you know, don't hate me. And it's just like, I don't think people are as sensitive or as like, I don't know, like tap water as a lot of these YouTube channels. Like there's literally YouTube channels. I was in a channel, and I'm not going to say who it is. I respect them tremendously. They grind, but man, I was watching them, and I have seen them from the beginning. They are very successful now. And I have been watching them from like 5,000 subscribers, and now they're at like 100,000, 150,000 plus, right? So this is a very successful channel. But they were doing a live stream, and someone asked them to do a review. They like donated. Not that anyone's obligated to do anything for anybody, but someone asked them to do something. You can tell the streamer enjoyed the idea. Like they were like, oh, that's fun. That's something that, and then immediately it turns to, but would anyone want to see that? I don't want to devote 6 hours to something that's going to get 10,000 views, you know? And it's just like, for me, someone's like 10,000 fucking views. Like, what are you talking about, buddy? You know what I mean? But they're getting like 50, 60, 70. And they're like, I could devote this to another tier ranking, you know, and get, you know, I don't like that. You know, I think if I get to the point where I'm making things just for the algorithm, why am I doing YouTube, you know? So
yeah,
I don't know.
Big Rod, I still get nervous sometimes, seriously. And we've been doing podcasting for a year and a half and YouTube for a year. Like, it takes time in front of the camera, and just put yourself out there.
Dude, I
and
was
practice.
shaking before I came on this channel. You guys might have been,
Oh.
might as well have been like dinner with the president. I was like having it, like I was like, going like fucking that, dude. I literally turned it on. I was
You
like,
did
oh shit,
amazing.
I got Tourette. I'm jerking around. I'm having involuntary movements. So I appreciate you guys. I gotta go. I'm actually a little bit behind my daughter. I have to take her to a daddy-daughter dance. It's like 6:30 to something. So I gotta go be a father. And be present.
Have fun.
But I
Nice
appreciate you guys so much. Yeah, it's been great. It means the world to me because I actually have been enjoying being on other people's channels while I'm figuring out my own thing more than doing mine. So I appreciate
good practice.
It. Yeah. Thank you so much.
Yeah,
and I appreciate you guys
anytime.
popping into my live streams and just saying hi while I'm messing around. So thank you so much, guys. Yeah.
It was nice talking to you.
Thank you so much for coming on.
Yeah, it means the world to me. It really does. So thank you.
All right. Well, everyone have a good night and have fun at your dance.
Yeah, have fun.
Yes. Have a great one.
Bye, guys.
Thank you. Bye, everyone.